We now know more about the government's plan to take on the housing affordability crisis. Political editor Corin Dan recaps the details.
For builders like John Gray, council consents are a major bugbear.
In the building industry, it's time is money. And when you're doing, say, a subdivisional project or something like that, and it's taking you 6 months to get it, you've got to forecast your cost 6 months in advance.
It's the type of problem the government agrees it needs to fix if it is to boost the supply of houses.
While prices are stable, there's an opportunity for us to change the supply side, change the supply processes so that we don't go into another big house price cycle.
It's now promising to free up more land for development, giving councils a 6-month deadline to deal with resource consents for mid-sized projects like large subdivisions and dairy factories, and making sure roads and services are provided to homes quickly.
Developers have to borrow to actually pay for the time spent actually getting those consents through, and that all just adds to the house cost.
The changes will have a major impact on councils that issue consents. However, it's possible consents could be taken out of council hands. The government is also doing work on whether a regional or national hub should be created to process consents, or whether a competitor should be allowed into the market. The Labour Party says the changes are tinkering around the margins and will do nothing to solve the housing affordability crisis.
So Auckland Mayor Len Brown is backing the plan with us now. Labour has said it's just tinkering, won't make any difference, but you're pretty supportive of what you've seen and heard so far.
Yeah, look, the Productivity Commission came out with a comment sort of around the fact that it's all about land supply that impacts on affordability. Bill English and the team have really come out with a much more considered and sophisticated response. Recognising it's just not about land supply, though in Auckland we've got 18,000 sections available right now if we were to build. It's about all sorts of issues around resource consents, it's about timing of release of land, the work we need to do around intensification, it's about the cost of materials, and TV's been covering that a little bit this morning. So there are a whole range of issues, and the government, the councils, the sector, the NGO sector, of course, things like Housing Foundation. We're talking about very strong collaboration to deal with the issue of, one, really springboarding housing supply and dealing with the broader issues of affordable housing. So
let's talk about, I mean, I know this has become such an Auckland-centric discussion, but I guess this is where the problem is.
Well, a million people in the next 20 years. So,
right, you're talking about the fact we have
18,000
18,000 sites ready for build right now in Auckland. So what is stopping builders getting onto that land right now and building?
Tell you the truth, Roy, and nothing, because they're actually starting. If you have a look at some of the development zones around East Tamaki, Hingaya, Karaka, out to Massey, up to Silverdale, there is all of a sudden over the last 3 months a real upswing in activity. If you talk to any real estate agents, they're all flat out. There's a lot of stuff going out in auctions. I was talking to Peter Thompson of Barfoot and Thompson the other day. 80% of their work is auction. So it tells you that the market is really warming up. So that is an aside. I think the real big challenge is not just about supply of housing. I mean, we didn't get a lot of houses built around Auckland over the last 4 years because primarily it was a recession. You know, people worried about their jobs, didn't have security or tenure, didn't have the discretionary, just sat pat like we always do in recessions. So now we're starting to see some real lift off. The issue now is about affordable housing, and so we're working with the government and the NGO sector. We want to start making pockets of projects for affordable housing within either inner city or around the periphery and some of our greener zones.
Right, so you're talking about, we've got these 18,000 sites which are up, ready to go. You say we're already building on a lot of them, but we're not going to see 10,000 new homes in the next year, though, are we?
Look, the way things happen in Auckland, when Auckland goes, it goes. You know, if you have a look at Auckland coming out of recession, absolutely, and you know, it could be rather than 10, it could be up around 6, 7, or 8. But serious development and build, as I say, is happening right now. Let's talk about the resource consent process, because this is something which Bill English is obviously focused on to try and speed things up. A 6-month limit or a 6-month time at the maximum, is that realistic? Look, if we're doing our job right, it should be happening anyhow. Quite frankly, we have to produce a building permit within 10 days of the application being lodged and a resource consent within 20 days of the application being lodged. So we are within that by 94% of the amount of building consents, resource consents coming through already. So the government's aspirations for pace shares my aspirations and our council's aspirations. When the application comes in, we want to do it with pace. Unless there's a serious problem around it, it should just fire straight through.
OK, and let's look at the cost of that, though. Yesterday I saw an example of subdivision.
Yep.
This was on Close Up last night. Going to cost $100,000 to subdivide this one property. 30 to 40,000 was going to go to council on that.
OK, so
how's that affordable?
So here's the average cost for doing a development, a new land development in Auckland. I mean, this is average, so there's a few changes, but the developmental contribution will be an average of 21,000, and the cost to hook up water, wastewater, 8,000. So average cost for section development in Auckland, 29,000. Now, that's work that we can do around, if we're delivering that with pace, then the cost is probably worth it. You saw John Gray, an old classmate of mine, commenting around the consequences of delay for him. So all the building and construction industry want to know is, Len, what's the plan? We got the plan, the Auckland plan. Here's the new rules coming through with the unitary plan. Here's how we're going to deliver with pace. And so that saves them money. And so we and the government and the sector are online around that. The new Auckland Council is really focused on delivering this stuff out with pace.
One final question. With increased pace and increased affordability, some are concerned will come increased risk as far as the quality goes. OK,
so we learnt a lot through the leaky homes, and we're still paying for that. So what I will say is that, you know, clearly we're focused on ensuring quality. I know the government has been asked that question. I'm confident that the learnings from the leaky home problem, not just for Auckland but for the whole of local government New Zealand and central government, who in effect led that through, you know, have been well learned and have been put into place. So the systems are now there. The desire for pace, the resource consenting process is in place, the land is increasingly available. Under the Auckland plan, we have to have 5 years of land, freeboard land, available for development, whether that's brownfields or greenfields. So that means up to 50,000 units, either apartment, terraced or standalone, available for development. And so I think Auckland is starting to be in good shape. Government working closely with us. What more could you ask for?
All right, Len Brown, Mayor of Auckland, thank you very much.
Pleasure.